Hey, what's up? Well, making another video in my patriotic outfit. And right now, my motto is make them while I can, post them when I can't. Okay? And what that means is that rather than actually post the video on the date that it's made, I'm starting to want to, just make a video and keep it private and then post it during the time that I won't be able to make videos, which unfortunately, the 4th of July seems to always find me in that predicament. I'm never able to make videos around the 4th of July, or I don't know if I've ever made one on the 4th of July. Just around the 4th of July. So, what better way to celebrate this year than to actually record a video on Memorial Day wearing my patriotic outfit with my fresh little haircut and then post it on the 4th of July, as in postpone it just slightly over a month or so. Something like that, about 5 weeks or so, maybe 6 weeks, roughly. So, I just enjoy making videos. I mean, really, I would make one every day, multiple times a day if I could. But unfortunately, I just can't do that. So, I'm going to make this video for the 4th of July, and I'm going to title it Artistic Freedom. And what I want to talk about in here is on this Independence Day, I want to say that people should have something called artistic freedom. And I've gotten in the habit these past few years. It's like yet another thing that I could never share with my parents. It's like there's so much I can't share with my parents. It's just too embarrassing, the content of these videos. Plus some other artistic endeavors. And before I sign my name to it and have to hide that, this is an example of what I work on secretly in my room. And I'm not going to read it because it's too embarrassing. But it's a Wild Thornberry's book, page 1. And it is not a crossover. It's just straight up Wild Thornberries. And it has my favorite character who did not appear in the crossover movie. You can imagine the storyline. There's Eliza, Donnie, Debbie, and then there's my favorite character, Tyler, with the voice of Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And it's a very short, simple book. There's Nigel. There they are again in their clothes. And you can imagine, I titled it, Tyler Tucker Needs a Sucker. And I have several other books that I'm hiding, blank books, that I'm hiding in an old eBay envelope that I can't really use because I'm not selling anything. And for the past, I want to say up to 5 years or so, oh my gosh, it's hard to believe 2019 is already 5 years ago. I was going through some old computer files on flash drives, and I find myself deleting stuff left and right. I just cannot believe that subject matter has taken up over 5 years of my thoughts. I've gotten a lot of gray hairs in the time that I've been obsessed with what used to define my channel. But that's what I want to talk about. It's how I should never have to apologize for what I call artistic freedom. And what I mean by that is, I'm using old sketches that I used to make from way back when I was a teenager on into my 20s. It's like I'm reliving my adolescence by making those sketches into drawings, computerized images into drawings in various ways with various tools, and making short, simple, kiddified books, handwritten. Because that brings me back to my junior high days when I actually learned how to make such a book in class. And it's so easy to staple together a like 8-page, 4-page or 8-page book. It goes by multiples of 4. And the very first one I ever did, you can imagine it had to do with that movie that I wish if I could erase from the internet any sign that I ever watched it as an adult, I absolutely would. Because it's done nothing but bad in my life for me to create so much content about it. And I wish I'd realized it when I actually created the content. But then again, I was up to 5 years younger and prettier. It's a shame you can't have the wisdom while you're pretty. And so I make these books, and they take the form of a short, simple book with an alliterative title or a rhyming title. I use, either like rhyme or alliteration to make them cute. Tyler Tucker Needs a Sucker. Well, you can imagine that's about the Wild Thornberrys, Tyler, voiced by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and he's slightly older than Eliza. Which personally, I would like it better if both he and Donnie had a little boy's voice, but that's all right. I don't really care at this point. I'm just glad there are some young characters on the show that are not girls. So you can imagine it's about Tyler getting a cold from the Thornberrys. If it were up to me, there would be at least one episode like that on every single show. Every single cartoon would have one episode where they would get sick with a cold, very much like I had in May of '97, not the flu, not allergies, not something like a cold, an actual cold, and they would call it that. They would refer to it as such, and it wouldn't be that serious, but it would affect their voice somehow. And so, pretty much all these books, which I'm not going to share them or actually read them because they're too embarrassing, but you can imagine probably the first one I ever did dealt with that movie, that I should never have watched and should never have posted so much content about it online. If only I could have known how stupid I would find that to be later. And, it's like I always worry that someone will confront me in real life, and ask me or try to, say that I'm wrong or something. And I've rehearsed in my head saying, well, that doesn't really matter anymore. It's like I practice saying that. That doesn't really matter anymore. I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. Because, the idea that you can be wrong about something so stupid and so petty is just stupid. It's just dumb, to contradict me. But what was even more dumb was for me to even post it in the first place, and that's what I'm starting to realize. Even though it's true, as far as I'm concerned, I probably should not have posted it online. Just like a lot of other things that I've posted and later deleted. But artistic freedom. So when I make those little booklets, and also when I made my little sketches to begin with, in my teens and 20s, I would always take the liberty to do things with them in various ways. Like, by and large, they look a lot like the characters on the show, which is what makes them so beautiful. Maybe even prettier than the actual characters because I use shading and things that they don't use on the cartoon. But, so I make the character as much like the one on TV as I can stand to. But then there are small things about the character sometimes that I just have to change because either it's fun or I don't see any reason why it couldn't be that way. Like the kids on As Told by Ginger. I'd find myself drawing their face almost identical to the way that they actually look. But for some stupid reason, they made their legs ridiculously short for their bodies. And I know they probably had reasons for, doing all these things they did in the cartoons. Well, I don't really care, because although I'm willing to draw them with shorter legs than a real person in proportion to their body, there are just some cases where I'm unwilling to exaggerate them to the extent that they are. You know what I'm saying? There's just some things that I have to change. Like when I used to draw Chucky with shorter hair. And I used to cover Tommy's diaper. And all kinds of things. I didn't like the way that they were, and so I would change things slightly. And also vary them up from one picture to another. Like, one picture, so that there's contradictory images. They might look lighter skinned in one picture than another, because my matte pencil might be worn down from the previous picture. And so rather than sharpen it or get another matte pencil that color, I might improvise and use light brown instead of mahogany or something like that. Various things. One image of Debbie Thornberry might have her in a dark green flannel shirt. Another image might be more of a lime green, and so on. I vary it up slightly. And so artistic liberty or freedom is the theme of this video. And so obviously I'm not going to share, maybe my first books, because you can imagine they're Rugrats books, and they might have something about poop, and, the one that I made basically retelling that third movie, you can imagine what it emphasized or focused on, and how it might be the very thing that they omitted entirely, which is all the proof that I need of what I believe. They omitted it from the actual children's books. Well, I made, my own fake book where it's more emphasized, if you know what I mean, where it's like the main focus. So, I'd rather not share that, but obviously it isn't something too graphic or nasty. But I'm starting to feel ashamed of my really old books, almost exclusively Rugrat books like that, and a few other characters. Like I started to branch out, and that's when I got interested in Rocket Power. I wanted to make a Rocket Power book, but how could I do that knowing so little about the show? And so I started watching it, and I got into it, and then, it's just it's hard to explain. When I'm right on top of something, it's hard to see how silly I am. Well, I guess I kind of have an idea how silly it may seem to others, but it's when I back away from the obsession. Sort of like when you back away from, something you've done, you see how it looks from far away, and it can look very bad. So, I'm kind of backing out of that obsession, but I just think that people, when people create like fan fiction, they should be able to do whatever they want with the characters. Whether or not, the actual fans of the show want to believe or accept what I'm saying, which, the abundance principle applies to that too. It can't be a Tommy did it thing, because it wouldn't be a joke. In order for something to be special or remarkable or funny, there would have to be an abundance of the opposite. When does Tommy ever not use his diaper for its intended purpose? You know what I'm saying? Like, Tommy would have to have suddenly been potty trained for it to be funny, for him to use his diaper. It wouldn't be funny because Tommy is expected to. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like when people create content You know, especially if it's not for the benefit of others, you know, like I'm not posting it on DeviantArt or anything like that anymore. I've deleted a lot of my files with that. But if you're not posting it or making it for other people, I mean, you should be able to change things to make them more acceptable to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that they never actually mention on the show, yeah, that the characters get colds or anything like that. The fact that they would never actually make a show about, like, the kids on As Told by Ginger getting colds should not mean that I can't create my own booklet where that's just the whole story right there in a nutshell. They all catch a cold. You know what I'm saying? And just because, you know, Chucky on the actual show has this ridiculous looking hairdo shouldn't mean that I can't make a book, a Rugrats book wherein Chucky's hair looks different in some way. You know, give him a different hairstyle or give Tommy a different outfit. You know, so what if he goes barefoot and wears a diaper in every episode on TV? You know, if I want to make a book where he is reimagined to wear clothes or something, and where it doesn't really focus on Tommy, you know, Angelica can become the main focus, the main character, whereas Tommy is just kind of in the background just to prove that it's a Rugrats story. I should have the right to do that. You know what I'm saying? If I want to shift the focus to a character that on the show isn't the main character, isn't the primary focus. You know, if I want to make a Rocket Power or a bunch of, you know, Rocket Power books, and the only character that is always present is Lars, as opposed to Otto, you know, Lars from Mars, my favorite non-Earth planet. If I want to make Rocket Power books where he is the only character that is always there, you know, whereas on the show it's Otto and he's rarely there or he's only in every other episode, I should have the right to do that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever character I want to focus on, whatever I want to have them do, and however I want to color their clothing, however I want to do their hair, I should have a right to do that. And, you know, so in honor of the 4th of July, I'll post this video and call it Artistic Freedom.